If you have this baby, I'll destroy your family and—
Lyric Brennan had always believed that life rewarded those who worked hard and stayed true to themselves. At 28, she was living proof of that philosophy. As a senior marketing consultant at Fletcher & Associates, one of Chicago's premier marketing firms, she'd climbed her way up from an unpaid internship to a corner office with a view of Lake Michigan. Her mother, Diane, who'd raised Lyric and her two brothers alone after their father passed away when Lyric was 12, often said that her daughter had inherited her father's brilliant mind and her own stubborn heart. Lyric wasn't just good at her job, she was exceptional. She had an innate ability to understand what made people tick, what made them buy, what made them believe in a brand. Her campaigns had won awards. Her clients trusted her. Her colleagues respected her. She'd built this life brick by brick, working double shifts to pay for community college, then transferring to a state university, then hustling her way into Fletcher & Associates when everyone told her she didn't have the pedigree for it. She lived in a modest but beautiful apartment in Bronzeville, stayed close to her family, volunteered at the community center where she'd spent her teenage years, and was content. Not completely fulfilled, perhaps. There was always that little voice wondering about love, about partnership, about whether she'd ever find someone who truly understood her, but content nonetheless. That contentment shattered and rebuilt itself in the span of 3 months, all because of Griffin Hale. Griffin Hale was not someone who typically entered Lyric's orbit. He was the 34-year-old CEO of Hale Innovations, a technology company his father had, founded 30 years ago and that Griffin had transformed into a billion-dollar empire. He was old money meets new success, with a penthouse in the Gold Coast, a mansion in Lake Forest, and a reputation for being brilliant, ruthless, and completely dedicated to his company. When Fletcher & Associates was hired to rebrand Hale Innovations, to make the company appear more innovative, and less like the stuffy corporation it was becoming, Lyric was assigned as the lead consultant. She'd done her research, read every article about Griffin Hale, prepared herself to deal with an arrogant, entitled CEO who would dismiss her ideas. She wasn't prepared for the reality. Their first meeting was in the Hale Innovations boardroom, all glass and steel and breathtaking views. Griffin walked in 15 minutes late, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. He had these striking green eyes that seemed to actually see people, not just look at them. "You're Lyric Brennan," he said, not as a question, but as a statement. He extended his hand. "I've read your work on the Meridian campaign. Brilliant. The way you repositioned their brand identity around authenticity rather than aspiration was exactly what they needed." Lyric shook his hand, momentarily stunned. "You actually read the case study?" "I read everything before I make a decision," he said, sitting down across from her. "So convince me why I should let you tear apart the brand my father built and put it back together." For the next 2 hours, they talked, really talked. Griffin challenged every one of her ideas, but not from a place of dismissiveness, from genuine curiosity and strategic thinking. When she pushed back, citing data and consumer psychology, he listened. When he disagreed, he articulated why. By the end of the meeting, they'd sketched out a rebranding strategy that was better than anything Lyric had prepared. "Same time next week?" Griffin asked as they wrapped up. "Actually, for a project this size, I typically recommend bi-weekly meetings," Lyric said, packing up her laptop. "I'm aware of your typical process," Griffin said, and there was the smallest hint of a smile. "I'm requesting weekly. If you have the availability." She had the availability. Over the next 6 weeks, their professional relationship deepened. Weekly meetings turned into twice-weekly working sessions. Business conversations extended into lunches, then dinners. Griffin wasn't what Lyric had expected. Yes, he was driven and demanding, but he was also thoughtful. He remembered details, that she took her coffee with oat milk because she was lactose intolerant, that she was close with her brothers, that she volunteered teaching marketing skills to teenagers. He told her about the pressure of living up to his father's legacy, about how his parents had divorced when he was young and his relationship with his mother was complicated, about how the company was both his greatest pride and his heaviest burden. Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd just been Griffin, not Griffin, Hale, heir to the empire, he admitted one evening as they worked late in his office. You'd probably be exactly where you are, Lyric said. Some people are just built to build things. Is that what you see when you look at me? A builder? She looked at him carefully. I see someone who cares deeply about things, even when he pretends not to. I see someone carrying weight he didn't choose, but refuses to put down. Something shifted in that moment. The air between them changed. Griffin stood up, walked around his desk, and sat on the edge of it, closer to where she was seated. And what do you see when you look at yourself? Someone trying to prove she belongs in rooms she wasn't born into, Lyric answered honestly. You don't have to prove anything, Lyric. You belong anywhere you choose to be. The first kiss happened 3 weeks later, after they'd successfully presented the rebranding strategy to Hale Innovations board. They were in Griffin's office, celebrating with expensive champagne that Lyric barely touched because she didn't want to cloud the feeling of success. We did it, Griffin said, looking at her with such genuine happiness that she felt her heart squeeze. You did it. I just helped you see what was already there. No, he said, stepping closer. You saw what could be there. You built it. You made me believe in it. When he kissed her, it felt like falling and flying at the same time. It felt like a door opening to a room she'd been searching for her whole life. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey. If you're already feeling the chemistry between Lyric and Griffin, please hit that like button. It really helps other readers discover this story. What do you think happens next? Will their professional relationship stay professional? Drop your predictions in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single chapter of Lyric and Griffin's story. Trust me, what's coming will break your heart before it puts it back together again. They tried to keep it professional at first. Lyric told herself it was just the adrenaline of a successful project. Griffin convinced himself it was a temporary distraction. But when the rebranding project officially ended, neither of them wanted to end what had begun. I want to see you, Griffin said on what should have been their final meeting. Not as a consultant, not for business. Just you and me. Lyric knew it was complicated. She knew their worlds were different. But when she was with Griffin, she felt seen in a way she never had before. So she said yes. For 3 months, they existed in a beautiful bubble. Griffin would pick her up after work, and they'd drive along the lakefront, talking about everything and nothing. They'd spend weekends at his Lake Forest home, cooking together, reading together, learning each other's rhythms. He came to her apartment in Bronzeville and met her neighbors, and didn't act like he was too important for her world. She went to charity galas with him and held her own with his wealthy associates. Her mother noticed the change in her. Baby, I haven't seen you glow like this since you got your first campaign win. Who is he? Lyric had hesitated. She hadn't told her family about Griffin yet, not because she was ashamed, but because she wanted to protect what they had a little longer. Someone special, Mama. I'll bring him around soon. I promise. She should have kept that promise sooner. The intimacy between them grew naturally, beautifully. Griffin was attentive and generous, always making sure Lyric felt cherished. In his arms, she felt like the most important person in the world. They'd spend hours in his penthouse, wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets, talking about their dreams. I want to build something that matters, Lyric told him one Sunday morning, her head on his chest. Not just sell things to people, but create something that actually helps communities like the one I grew up in. Then do it, Griffin said, running his fingers through her natural curls, something he'd learned she loved. You have the skill and the vision. What's stopping you? Money, resources, fear, she admitted. Fear of what? Failing. Proving right everyone who said I got lucky instead of earning it. Griffin tilted her face up to look at him. Lyric Brennan. You are the most capable person I've ever met. If you want to build something, you'll build it, and I'll help you however I can. Those were the moments she fell in love with him, not because of his money or his status, but because he believed in her in a way that made her believe in herself more. But there were cracks in their bubble, small at first. Phone calls Griffin would take in another room. mentions of his family that he'd quickly redirect, a certain tension when she'd suggest meeting his parents, or when he'd avoid talking about the future. "My family is complicated," he'd say. "I want to keep you separate from that complication as long as possible." Lyric understood complicated families. She let it go. Then came the night that changed everything. Lyric had been feeling off for a week, exhausted, nauseous, emotional, in a way that wasn't like her. Her period was late, but she'd been stressed with a new client pitch, so she'd attributed it to that. Until her best friend, Tiona, a nurse, looked at her symptoms and said, "Girl, you need to take a test." The two pink lines appeared faster than Lyric could process. Pregnant. She was pregnant with Griffin's child. Terror and joy warred in her chest. They'd been careful, but not perfectly careful. These things happened, and while this wasn't planned, while the timing was terrible, a small part of her wondered if maybe this was the universe's way of pushing their relationship forward. She called Griffin and asked him to come over. She needed to tell him in person. He arrived an hour later, concerned. "Everything okay? You sounded strange on the phone." Lyric took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen until I'm done, okay?" Griffin's face shifted into something guarded. "Okay, I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air between them. Lyric watched Griffin's face go through a dozen emotions: shock, disbelief, fear, and then something that looked like panic. "You're sure?" he finally asked. "I took 3 tests, all positive. I have a doctor's appointment scheduled for Friday to confirm, but yes, I'm sure." Griffin stood up, ran his hands through his hair, started pacing. "This can't be happening. Not now. Not like this. I know it's not ideal timing." "Ideal timing?" Griffin's voice rose. "Lyric, this is a disaster." The word hit her like a slap. "A disaster? We're talking about a baby, Griffin. Our baby. You don't understand. My family, the company, my father's legacy. There are expectations. There's a plan." "What plan? What are you talking about?" That's when the truth spilled out. Griffin had been engaged before to a woman named Kathleen Whitmore, someone from his social circle, someone his family approved of. They'd called off the engagement 2 years ago, but his family, especially his father, Montgomery Hale, had never accepted it. There was pressure, constant pressure, to reconcile with Kathleen, to marry within their world, to produce heirs that would carry on the Hale legacy appropriately. "You've been dealing with this the whole time we've been together?" Lyric asked, her voice breaking. "I thought I could handle it. I thought eventually they'd accept that I'm making my own choices. And now? What about now?" Griffin looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Weakness, cowardice. "My father can't know about this. If he finds out you're pregnant, he'll destroy everything. He has the power to do it, Lyric. He can ruin your career, your reputation, your family's businesses." "My family doesn't have businesses. We're regular people, Griffin. We work regular jobs. Then those jobs. Your brothers, one works in finance, right? And the other is a teacher. Do you think my father can't reach them? Can't make their lives difficult?" Lyric felt cold. "What are you saying?" Griffin knelt in front of her, taking her hands. His eyes were desperate. "I'm saying we need to handle this carefully. We need to think about our options." "Our options?" "Whether this is the right time to bring a child into this situation." Understanding crashed over Lyric like a wave. "You want me to get rid of it?" "I'm saying we should consider all possibilities." She pulled her hands away. "Say it clearly, Griffin. Say what you want." He stood up, and when he spoke again, his voice was colder, more controlled. The CEO voice she'd heard him use in difficult business negotiations. "If you have this baby, my father will destroy your family. He will make it his mission to dismantle everything you've built and everything your family depends on. He's done it before to people who've threatened the Hale reputation. I've seen him do it. And He paused, struggling. "I won't be able to stop him. Not if you force my hand by keeping this child." "Force your hand?" Lyric stood up, her whole body shaking. "I'm not forcing anything. This is a consequence of what we did together, what we shared. I thought we were building something real. We are. But this... Get out. Lyric. Get out of my apartment. Get out of my life. You're not thinking clearly. When you calm down... I am thinking clearly for the first time since I met you, Lyric said, tears streaming down her face. You're a coward, Griffin Hale. You're not the man I thought you were. You're exactly who everyone warned me you'd be. Someone who uses people and throws them away when they become inconvenient. Griffin's face hardened. I'm trying to protect you. No, you're trying to protect yourself. There's a difference. He stared at her for a long moment, and she thought maybe he'd break. Maybe he'd choose her and their baby over his father's approval. But he didn't. If you decide to keep this baby against my wishes, don't expect anything from me, he said quietly. And understand that the consequences will be yours to bear. Then he left. Lyric collapsed on her couch and cried harder than she'd cried since her father died. She cried for the man she thought she knew, for the future she'd imagined, for the innocence she'd lost. But somewhere beneath the grief, a fierce determination began to grow. She placed her hand on her still flat stomach and made a promise. I don't know who you are yet, little one, but I know this. You are not a disaster. You are not a consequence. You are a gift, and I will protect you with everything I have. We don't need him. We'll be just fine. The next few months were the hardest of Lyric's life. She confirmed the pregnancy with her doctor. She was 8 weeks along, healthy, due in early May. She told her family, bracing for disappointment, but found instead fierce support. Her mother held her and said, "Babies are never mistakes, only surprises. We'll figure this out together." Her brothers, Marcus and Troy, were protective and angry on her behalf. "Who is this man? Give us a name, Lyric," Marcus demanded. But she wouldn't. She wouldn't give Griffin the satisfaction of drama. And she wouldn't risk her brothers doing something that could hurt their own futures. Work became complicated. Word got around that she was pregnant. Some clients were supportive, others quietly requested different consultants. Fletcher and associates stood by her publicly, but she felt the shift. She was being edged out of major projects, given smaller accounts. Then the real trouble started. 2 months after her confrontation with Griffin, her biggest client, a company she'd worked with for 2 years, suddenly terminated their contract, citing new direction. A week later, another client did the same, then another. Her boss, Raymond Fletcher, called her into his office. "Lyric, I don't know what's happening, but someone is targeting you. 3 clients in 3 weeks, all with vague excuses. Have you upset someone?" She knew exactly who. Montgomery Hale was making good on his son's threat. "I'll figure it out," she told Raymond. But she didn't know if she could. Her brother Marcus came home stressed one evening. "My firm is restructuring. They're eliminating my entire division. My boss said he fought for me, but the orders came from the top." Marcus worked at a mid-sized financial firm. Lyric did research and found that Hale Innovations had acquired a significant stake in the parent company 6 weeks ago. Troy called 2 weeks later. The school district was facing budget cuts. His position as an arts teacher was being eliminated. Lyric connected the dots. Montgomery Hale wasn't just going after her. He was systematically dismantling her family's stability, just as Griffin had warned. She felt rage and helplessness in equal measure. How did you fight someone with unlimited resources and no conscience? The stress was affecting her pregnancy. At her 16-week checkup, her doctor expressed concern about her blood pressure and anxiety levels. "You need to reduce stress, Lyric, for your health and the baby's health." That night, Lyric made a decision. She couldn't fight the Hales. She didn't have the resources, the connections, or the energy. But she could remove herself from their reach. She called Tiona. "Remember how you're always saying I should come to Atlanta? That the marketing scene is growing there?" "Yeah, why? How fast could I get a job there?" 2 months later, Lyric moved to Atlanta. She'd found a position at a smaller marketing firm, took a pay cut, and said goodbye to the life she'd built in Chicago. Her mother wanted to come with her, but Lyric insisted she stay. The pressure on her family eased once Lyric left the city. Atlanta was a fresh start. No one knew her story. She was just another pregnant single woman building a life. The black community there embraced her. She found a small apartment in a nice neighborhood, made friends with other young mothers, and slowly rebuilt her sense of self. Her daughter was born on May 3rd, after 12 hours of labor, with her mother and Tiona, who'd flown in by her side. The moment they placed her daughter on her chest, Lyric felt a love so overwhelming it erased every ounce of pain from the past 9 months. She named her Sage Diane Brennan. Sage for wisdom and strength. Diane for the grandmother who'd raised Lyric to be resilient. Sage had Lyric's deep brown skin and full lips, but she had her father's green eyes, a striking combination that people constantly commented on. Looking at those eyes was bittersweet. They were beautiful, but they reminded Lyric of the man who'd abandoned them. She never contacted Griffin, not when she moved, not when Sage was born, not ever. He'd made his choice clear. This was hers. The first year of Sage's life was exhausting but joyful. Lyric learned to navigate motherhood while rebuilding her career. The marketing firm she joined was smaller than Fletcher and Associates, but the work was meaningful. They focused on small businesses and startups, helping local entrepreneurs build their brands. Lyric discovered she was good at this, better than she'd been at selling luxury goods to people who didn't need them. She was helping people who had dreams but not resources. She was using her skills to build up instead of just sell. By Sage's 2nd birthday, Lyric had been promoted to Director of Client Services. By her 3rd birthday, Lyric had saved enough to start her own consulting firm, Brennan Brand Collective. Her mission was clear: provide high-quality marketing services to minority-owned businesses and community organizations at accessible rates. It was risky, starting a business as a single mother. But Lyric had learned something in the wilderness years. She was capable of far more than she'd ever given herself credit for. Losing Griffin had broken her, but it had also freed her from needing anyone's permission to be great. Her mother visited often, and her brothers had both recovered from the setbacks the Hales had caused. Marcus found a better job at a firm that actually valued him. Troy transitioned into arts administration and was thriving. "You did it, baby girl," her mother said during one visit, watching Lyric present a campaign to a local bakery owner. "You built something real." Lyric looked at Sage, who was coloring quietly in the corner of her office. She often brought her daughter to work, and felt proud. "We built it together, Mama. All of us." She dated occasionally, but nothing serious. Part of her was still healing from Griffin. Another part of her was so fulfilled by motherhood and her work that romance felt unnecessary. She'd had great love once. Maybe that was enough for one lifetime. Sage was bright, curious, and funny. She asked a million questions, loved books and art, and had a smile that could light up a room. People were drawn to her. "Mommy, why don't I have a daddy?" Sage asked one evening, a few weeks after her 4th birthday. Lyric had been preparing for this question. "You do have a daddy, sweetheart. He just lives far away and isn't part of our lives. Does he know about me?" Lyric chose her words carefully. She'd promised herself she'd never poison Sage against her father, but she'd also never lie. "He knew I was going to have you, but he made a choice to not be involved. That was his choice, not anything about you. You are perfect and lovable, and his choice was about him, not you. Do you think he'd like me if he met me?" Lyric pulled her daughter into her lap. "Baby, anyone who meets you likes you. You're incredible, but whether he'd appreciate how incredible you are, I honestly don't know. And that's okay, because we have so many people who love us exactly as we are." Sage seemed to accept this, the way children do, and moved on to asking about what was for dinner. But the question stayed with Lyric. For 4 years, she'd successfully not thought about Griffin Hale. She'd built a life that didn't include him, didn't need him, didn't reference him, except in Sage's green eyes. Yet sometimes, late at night, she wondered what he'd think if he saw what she'd built, if he'd regret his choice, if he ever thought about the child he'd thrown away. She told herself it didn't matter, and most days she believed it. Brennan Brand Collective's reputation grew steadily. Lyric's approach, combining sophisticated marketing strategies with genuine community investment, attracted attention. She was featured in local business publications, invited to speak on panels, recognized as one of Atlanta's rising entrepreneurs. One of her biggest clients was Meridian South, a non-profit focused on economic development in underserved communities. They were impressed enough with her work to recommend her for a major project, rebranding a technology initiative designed to bring coding education and resources to communities across the Southeast. The initiative was funded by multiple corporations and philanthropic organizations. It was the kind of project that could take Brennan Brand Collective to the next level: more visibility, more credibility, more impact. Lyrics submitted a proposal and was invited to pitch in person. The presentation was scheduled for a Wednesday in early September at a hotel conference center in downtown Atlanta. She prepared for weeks, crafting a strategy that would position the initiative as not just charitable but transformative. The morning of the presentation, she dropped Sage off at her preschool program. Sage was starting pre-K in a few weeks and was excited about her new backpack. "Mommy, you look pretty," Sage said, admiring Lyric's professional outfit, a tailored navy suit that made her feel confident and powerful. "Thank you, baby. Mommy has a big meeting today. Are you nervous?" "A little. But you know what you told me when you were nervous about swimming lessons? I can do hard things." Sage grinned. "You can do hard things, Mommy." Lyric kissed her daughter's forehead. "That's right. I can." The presentation went beautifully. The committee, representatives from various funding organizations, asked thoughtful questions and seemed genuinely excited about her vision. Lyric felt the familiar rush of doing what she was born to do. "We have a few more pitches to review, but we'll be in touch within the week," the committee chair said as they wrapped up. Lyric thanked them and stepped out of the conference room into the hotel lobby, feeling elated. She pulled out her phone to text Tiona about how it had gone. That's when she heard a voice that made her blood freeze. "The numbers are solid, but I want to see their community impact metrics before we commit." Griffin's voice. She looked up and there he was, 30 feet away, walking through the hotel lobby with 2 other men in suits. He looked older. There were hints of grey at his temples, but essentially the same. Tall, commanding, confident. Lyric's first instinct was to run, to hide, to avoid the confrontation that would shatter her carefully built peace. But she didn't. She stood frozen, watching him, and then, as if he could feel her gaze, Griffin looked up. Their eyes met across the lobby. She saw shock register on his face, then something else, recognition, confusion, and something that might have been longing. He stopped walking. His colleagues kept talking, not noticing his distraction. Lyric's heart was pounding so hard she thought she might be sick. 4 years. 4 years of building a life without him, and all it took was one glance to bring every feeling rushing back. She turned and walked quickly toward the exit, desperate to escape before... Lyric. His voice calling her name. Footsteps behind her. She didn't stop. She pushed through the revolving door and into the Atlanta heat, heading for the parking garage. "Lyric, please. Wait." A hand on her arm, gentle but insistent. She stopped, not because he was touching her, but because she realized she couldn't run, not anymore. She was done running from Griffin Hale. She turned around. Up close, she could see the changes 4 years had wrought. Lines around his eyes, a weariness that hadn't been there before. But those green eyes, Sage's eyes, were the same. "What are you doing in Atlanta?" he asked, like that was the most pressing question. "I live here." "What are you doing here?" "Business meeting, for the Technology Education Initiative. Hale Innovations is one of the primary funders." He stopped. "Wait, were you just in that pitch meeting?" "Yes." "So you run Brennan Brand Collective?" "I own it." "Yes." Griffin looked stunned. "Lyric, I had no idea. If I'd known you were involved, I would have..." "Would have what?" "Tried to sabotage me again." He flinched. "I never sabotaged you. No, your father did. On your behalf. While you stood by and let it happen, I didn't know. Not at first. When I found out what he'd done, I tried to stop it, but you'd already left Chicago. You disappeared completely. I tried to find you." "Don't." Lyric held up her hand. Don't rewrite history. You made your choice very clear. You threatened my family to get me to terminate my pregnancy. When I didn't, your father followed through on that threat. I lost my career, my brothers lost their jobs, and I had to leave my entire life behind. So don't stand here and act like you tried to help. Did you? Griffin's voice cracked. Did you have the baby? Lyric stared at him. After everything, after 4 years, he had the audacity to ask that question with hope in his voice. That's none of your business. Lyric, please. I know I don't have the right to ask, but I've thought about you every day for 4 years. I've wondered if there was a child. You gave up the right to know anything about my life when you called my baby a disaster and threatened everything I loved. I was scared. I was a coward. You were right about that, but I've regretted that conversation every single day since. Good, Lyric said coldly. Live with that regret. I have to go. She turned and walked away, and this time he didn't follow. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely unlock her car. Once inside, she gripped the steering wheel and tried to breathe. She'd done it. She'd faced him, and she'd survived. But then she thought about picking up Sage from preschool in 3 hours. Sage with her green eyes. Sage who'd asked about her daddy just weeks ago. Griffin was in Atlanta. Griffin was funding the initiative she was trying to get hired for. Their paths had collided after 4 years of careful separation. Nothing was ever going to be simple again. Lyric didn't tell anyone about seeing Griffin. She picked up Sage from preschool, made dinner, read bedtime stories, and pretended everything was normal. But inside, she was spiraling. What if Griffin found out about Sage? What if he tried to take her? Did he have legal rights even though he'd explicitly told her not to keep the baby? What if his father came after them again? She barely slept. By morning, she'd convinced herself that she needed to withdraw from the Technology Initiative project. It was the safest option. She'd send a professional email citing scheduling conflicts and move on. But before she could draft that email, her phone rang. It was Dominic Chen, the committee chair. Lyric, I'm calling with good news. The committee was unanimous. We'd like to offer you the contract. Her heart sank and soared simultaneously. This was the opportunity she'd been working toward. It would establish her firm, provide financial stability for her and Sage, and allow her to do meaningful work. That's wonderful news, she managed. There's a kick-off meeting next Monday with all the key stakeholders and funders. Can you make it? Griffin would be there. Of course he would. Yes, I'll be there. She hung up and immediately called Teona. I need you to be completely honest with me. What are my legal obligations regarding Sage's father? Why? What happened? Lyric explained the encounter with Griffin. Teona was quiet for a moment. Okay. Legally, he's the biological father, so he does have potential rights, but he'd have to establish paternity and petition for custody or visitation. The fact that he explicitly told you to terminate and has had no contact in 4 years works in your favor. But Lyric, if he wants to be involved now, a court might allow it, even though he abandoned us. He'd argue he didn't know the child existed. Did you ever formally tell him you decided to keep the baby? No. After our fight, I never spoke to him again. Then he has some plausible deniability. I'm not saying it's right, but legally, it's complicated. Lyric felt nauseous. What should I do? You need to talk to a family lawyer. Get ahead of this. And Lyric, you might need to tell him about Sage before he finds out another way. On your terms. The weekend crawled by. Lyric tried to focus on Sage, but her mind kept returning to the impossible decision ahead. Tell Griffin about his daughter, or hope he never found out. Monday came too quickly. The kick-off meeting was at the same hotel where she'd presented. Lyric dressed carefully, armoring herself in professionalism. She'd arranged for her mother to pick up Sage from preschool, not wanting to risk any chance of Griffin seeing her. The conference room was full, representatives from various organizations, non-profit leaders, corporate executives, and Griffin, sitting at the far end of the table. Their eyes met briefly. His expression was unreadable. The meeting focused on logistics, timelines, and goals. Lyric presented her strategic framework and fielded questions. She was in her element, and she made sure everyone in that room knew she'd earned her place there. Griffin didn't speak much, but she felt his eyes on her throughout. As the meeting wrapped up, Lyric packed her materials quickly, planning a swift exit. Lyric, a moment? Dominic Chen approached with Griffin beside him. Griffin here was just expressing how impressed he was with your presentation, Dominic said. Given that Hale Innovations is our largest funder, I thought you two should connect directly about the brand strategy. Lyric forced a professional smile. Of course. I'm happy to schedule a call. I'm in Atlanta for the rest of the week, Griffin said. Perhaps we could meet tomorrow. I'd love to understand your vision more deeply. It was a trap and a test. If she refused, it would seem unprofessional. If she agreed, she'd have to face him alone. Tomorrow works. My office, 10 a.m. She handed him a business card, a small power move. This was her territory. I'll be there, Griffin said. That night, Lyric prepared for battle. She researched family law, documented the timeline of their relationship and breakup, and wrote down everything she wanted to say to Griffin. She was done being the victim of his choices. If they were going to have this conversation, it would be on her terms. Her office was in a converted warehouse in a revitalized neighborhood, a space she'd deliberately chosen because it reflected her values. Community, transformation, potential. Griffin arrived exactly at 10, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Nice space, he said, looking around at the exposed brick, the local art on the walls, the photos of her clients, small business owners and community leaders. Thank you. Coffee, please. She poured 2 cups from her French press, buying time. They sat in her office, the desk between them like a battlefield line. So, Griffin began. The technology initiative, yes. My strategy is to position it not as charity, but as investment. Lyric, we both know I didn't come here to talk about marketing strategy. She set down her coffee cup. Then, say what you came to say. Griffin leaned forward. I need to know if you had our baby. Why? Why does it matter to you now? Because I've lived with the weight of that choice for 4 years. Because I was wrong about everything. Because I'm not the same person I was then. That's convenient, Lyric said. People don't change that fundamentally, Griffin, don't they? You did. You're not the woman I met in Chicago. You're more. You built this firm, this life. You're doing work that actually matters. You've become everything you said you wanted to be. I became this because you destroyed who I was, Lyric said, her voice sharp. Your father dismantled my career, threatened my family, and forced me to start over. So yes, I'm different. Trauma changes people. Griffin flinched. I know my father went too far. When I found out the extent of what he'd done, I confronted him. We didn't speak for over a year. Am I supposed to feel sorry for you? You had a fight with your daddy while I was pregnant and alone, rebuilding my entire life. No. You're not supposed to feel anything for me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm asking anyway, Lyric. Did you have our child? The moment had come. The truth was going to break the dam, and Lyric had to decide whether to let it or hold it back. She thought of Sage's green eyes, her smile, her questions about her daddy, and she made her choice. Yes, she said quietly. I have a daughter. Her name is Sage. She's 4 years old, and she's the best thing that ever happened to me. Griffin's face transformed. Shock, joy, grief, all at once. I have a daughter. I have a daughter. You gave up that right. Can I see her? A picture? Lyric hesitated, then unlocked her phone and pulled up her favorite recent photo, Sage. At the park, laughing on the swings, her curls wild in the wind, eyes bright with joy. She turned the phone toward Griffin. He stared at the image, and tears started rolling down his face. She has my eyes. Yes, she's beautiful. She looks like you. Yes. Lyric. His voice broke. I missed 4 years. 4 years of her life. You didn't miss them. You chose to not be there for them. There's a difference. Griffin wiped his eyes. You're right, and I can't change that. But I want to be there now. I want to be her father. Please. This was what Lyric had feared. You don't get to just walk in and claim her because it's convenient now. She's a person, Griffin. A little girl with feelings and needs. She's not a business deal you can negotiate. I know that, do you? Because 4 years ago, you called her a disaster. You threatened to destroy my family if I didn't terminate her. Now you want to play daddy? How do I know you won't change your mind again when it gets hard? I understand your distrust. I've earned it. But I've changed, Lyric. That last year, after you left, I hit bottom. I realized I'd become exactly what I hated. A man who let fear and other people's expectations control his choices. I started therapy. I confronted my father and established boundaries. I stepped back from the company to figure out who I was outside of the Hale name. Good for you. That doesn't give you rights to my daughter. Legally. Don't, Lyric said, her voice dangerous. Don't threaten me with legal action. I will fight you with everything I have. I will spend every penny, call every favor, and make sure every single person knows exactly how you treated us. Your reputation, your company's image. I will burn it all down before I let you hurt my daughter. Griffin held up his hands. I'm not threatening you. I'm just asking, begging for a chance. Not to take her from you, just to know her, to be part of her life in whatever way you deem appropriate. You hold all the power here, Lyric. I understand that. Lyric studied him, trying to see past her own anger, and hurt to assess whether he was genuine. Why now? Why do you suddenly care? I've cared every day since you left. I just didn't think I had the right to do anything about it. But seeing you again, knowing she's real, knowing she exists in the world, I can't walk away again. I won't survive it. But you expect me to risk my daughter's emotional well-being on your redemption arc. No, Griffin said quietly. I expect you to make the decision that's best for Sage. If that means I don't meet her, I'll accept it. But I'm asking you to consider that maybe, she deserves to know her father. If I can prove to you I've changed. Lyric's mind raced. She thought about Sage's questions, about the fact that her daughter would eventually wonder about her father, about whether denying her that relationship was protecting Sage or punishing Griffin. I need time to think about this, she finally said. And if I decide to allow you into her life, it will be gradual, supervised, and the moment you hurt her, you're gone. Permanently. I understand. Thank you for even considering it. Don't thank me yet. I haven't decided anything. Griffin stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. What you've built here, who you've become. You were always exceptional, but now, you're extraordinary. After he left, Lyric sat in her office for a long time, staring at the photo of Sage on her phone. What was the right choice? How did you balance protection with possibility? She didn't have an answer, but she knew she needed help figuring it out. Lyric called an emergency family meeting. Her mother flew down from Chicago, and both her brothers joined via video call. Tiona came in person. Lyric laid out the entire situation. Her mother was quiet for a long time after Lyric finished. Then she said, "Baby, you know I support whatever you decide. But can I tell you what I see? Please. I see a woman who's been carrying anger and hurt for 4 years. Righteous anger. Justified hurt. But I also see that carrying those things has kept you closed off from a lot of good things. You haven't seriously dated anyone. You pour everything into work and Sage, and that's okay. You've built a beautiful life. But I wonder if letting Griffin in, even a little, might free you from some of that weight." Marcus was less diplomatic. "He threatened our family. He's the reason I lost my job. Troy lost his position. Why should we give him anything?" "Because it's not about him," Troy interjected quietly. "It's about Sage. Kids deserve to know where they come from if it's safe. The question is whether he's safe." Tiona added her perspective. "I've seen too many cases where parents withhold access out of anger and the kids end up hurt. But I've also seen kids damaged by unstable parents being given too much too soon. You need a middle path." Lyric listened to all of them, grateful for their honesty. So what does the middle path look like? Background check, Tiona said immediately. Find out what he's been doing for 4 years, then supervised meetings, public places, short visits. Watch how he handles boundaries. Make him prove he's reliable before introducing him as her father. And protect yourself legally, Marcus added. Get a custody agreement in writing, child support, everything documented. Lyric nodded slowly. Okay, I'll talk to a lawyer and a child psychologist, get professional guidance, and I'll do the background check. Over the next week, Lyric hired a family lawyer and did extensive research on Griffin's last 4 years. What she found surprised her. He'd been telling the truth about stepping back from Hale Innovations. 2 years ago, he'd transitioned to chairman of the board and brought in a new CEO. He'd shifted his focus to philanthropy, specifically funding educational initiatives in underserved communities. The technology education program that brought them back together wasn't random. Griffin had been personally championing it for over a year, donating millions of his own money. Articles described him as reformed and committed to using his wealth for social good. There were no scandals, no lawsuits, no concerning behavior. There was one profile piece that caught Lyric's attention. In it, Griffin was asked why he'd stepped back from running his father's company. His answer, "I realized I was living someone else's life. I'd made choices based on fear and obligation rather than values and integrity. I hurt someone I cared about deeply because I wasn't brave enough to stand up for what mattered. I'm spending the rest of my life trying to be the man I should have been then, someone he cared about deeply." He'd never mentioned Lyric by name, but the interviewer noted that Griffin had never married and was famously private about his personal life. The child psychologist Lyric consulted gave her a framework. If you decide to proceed, introduce him as a friend first. Let Sage get comfortable with him as a person. Before introducing the concept of him being her father, watch for how he interacts with her. Is he patient? Does he respect her boundaries? Does he show up consistently? Armed with all this information, Lyric made her decision. She called Griffin. "I've thought about it," she said. "I'm willing to let you meet Sage, but there are conditions. Anything. First, you sign a formal custody agreement that establishes me as primary custodian. You'll have visitation rights, but they start minimal and increase only if you prove consistent and reliable. Second, child support. Not because I need it, but because you should contribute to her well-being. Third, you meet with my lawyer and my child psychologist to understand expectations. And fourth, you don't tell her you're her father until I say you can. She'll meet you as my friend first. I agree to all of it. I'm not finished. Fifth, you don't get to disrupt her life or routine. You fit into her world, not the other way around. Sixth, no gifts or attempts to buy her. Affection. You build a relationship through presence and care, not money. And seventh, the moment I feel she's being harmed emotionally, this ends. Non-negotiable. I understand. Thank you, Lyric. I won't let you down. You're not doing this for me, Griffin. You're doing it for her." They scheduled the first meeting for the following Saturday at a public park. Neutral territory. Low pressure. Lyric prepared Sage carefully. "Baby, remember how you asked about your daddy?" Sage looked up from her coloring. "Uh-huh. Well, I have a friend named Mr. Griffin who's going to come to the park with us this weekend. He's someone special. I want you to meet him. Is he nice?" "I think so. But you can decide for yourself." Saturday arrived warm and clear. Lyric dressed Sage in her favorite purple dress and did her hair in 2 puffs with matching bows. Her daughter looked adorable and confident, and Lyric felt a fierce surge of protectiveness. Griffin was already at the park when they arrived, sitting on a bench, looking nervous. He stood when he saw them, and Lyric watched his face as he saw Sage in person for the first time. His expression was pure wonder. "Sage, this is my friend Mr. Griffin," Lyric said. "Griffin, this is my daughter, Sage." Griffin knelt down to Sage's level. "Hi, Sage. It's really nice to meet you." Sage studied him with those green eyes, his eyes, taking in every detail. "You have eyes like me. Griffin's voice caught. I do, don't I? Green eyes are pretty special. My mommy says they're unique. Your mommy is very smart. Sage seemed to accept this and then asked the most important question. Do you like swings? Griffin smiled. I love swings. Come on. Lyric watched as her daughter grabbed Griffin's hand and pulled him toward the playground. He looked back at her, eyes shining with tears, and mouthed, Thank you. For the next hour, Lyric observed. Griffin pushed Sage on the swings and listened intently to her 4-year-old chatter about preschool, her favorite books, and her best friend Zuri. He was patient when she wanted to show him how high she could climb. He was gentle when she fell and scraped her knee, letting Lyric handle the comfort, while he provided the Band-Aid from the first aid kit he'd thoughtfully brought. He didn't try too hard. He didn't hover. He just showed up as a calm, interested presence in her world. Mr. Griffin, do you have kids? Sage asked at one point. Griffin glanced at Lyric before answering. No, I don't. But I think kids are pretty amazing. Do you want kids? Yeah. Yeah, I really do. Sage nodded seriously. You'd be a good daddy. You're nice, and you're tall, and you can push really high on the swings. Griffin had to turn away to compose himself. When it was time to leave, Sage hugged Griffin goodbye without prompting. Will you come to the park again? If your mom says it's okay, I'd love to. Mommy, can he? Please. Lyric looked at Griffin's hopeful face, at Sage's excitement, and felt something shift in her chest. We'll see, baby. In the car on the way home, Sage chattered about Mr. Griffin. How nice he was. How strong he must be to push so high. How his eyes were like hers. Did you like him, Mummy? Sage asked. Lyric thought about her answer carefully. I think he's trying very hard to be a good person, and I think he was very happy to meet you. I liked him, Sage declared. Then, with a 4-year-old's emotional honesty, I wish he could be my daddy. Lyric's heart clenched. Why, baby? Because he looked at me like you look at me, like I'm special. That night, after Sage was asleep, Lyric cried. For the years lost, for the complexity of the situation, for the fear of making the wrong choice, but also for the tiny seed of possibility that maybe, just maybe, something broken could be repaired. Over the next 3 months, Griffin became a regular presence in Sage's life. Every Saturday they'd meet at the park, or the children's museum, or the aquarium. Griffin was consistent, showing up exactly when he said he would, staying, as long as Lyric permitted, and never pushing for more than she offered. He followed every rule. He didn't bring extravagant gifts, just small, thoughtful things, like a book, about a topic Sage had mentioned, or a stuffed animal of her favorite animal. He deferred to Lyric's parenting, never contradicting her or undermining her authority. He sent child support payments without needing to be reminded, along with contributions to Sage's college fund. Lyric watched carefully for red flags, but found none. Instead, she saw a man genuinely trying to be worthy of his daughter's trust. She also saw Sage blossoming under the attention. Her daughter had always been confident, but there was something different now, a completeness, as if a question she'd been carrying had been answered. During one of their outings, Lyric hung back and watched Griffin and Sage at the duck pond, tossing breadcrumbs. They had the same mannerisms, the way they tilted their heads when thinking, the way they laughed. Tiona, who'd come along for this visit, nudged her. He's good with her. Yeah, Lyric admitted. How do you feel about that? Conflicted, grateful, scared, angry that we're 4 years in instead of at the beginning. All of it at once. And how do you feel about him? Lyric looked at her friend. What do you mean? I mean, you loved him once. Deeply. You built a whole child with him, and now he's back, transformed into exactly the man you needed him to be 4 years ago. That must be complicated. I can't think about that. This is about Sage, is it? Because I see the way you look at him when he's not watching, and I see the way he looks at you when you're not watching. There's still something there. There's too much history, too much hurt, maybe. Or maybe there's a foundation that's been tested and could be stronger for it. Lyric didn't want to consider that possibility. But late at night, when she was honest with herself, she acknowledged, that the anger she'd carried for 4 years was starting to ease, not disappear. She wasn't sure it ever would completely, but soften into something more manageable. She'd also noticed things about Griffin, how he'd grown, how he spoke to people, service workers, other parents, children, with genuine respect, how he talked about his work with passion but also humility, how he'd ask Lyric's advice on things, valuing her opinion. One Saturday, after a museum visit, Sage fell asleep in the car on the way home. Griffin had followed them back to help carry her inside, something that had become their routine. As Lyric tucked Sage into bed, Griffin stood in the doorway, watching with such tenderness that Lyric felt her defenses crack. Downstairs, she made them both tea. They sat on her couch, a careful distance between them. "Can I ask you something?" Griffin said. "Sure. When do you think I can tell her that I'm her father?" Lyric had been expecting this question. The psychologist says when she's comfortable asking who you are, when the relationship is established enough that the truth feels natural rather than shocking. "And when do you think that will be?" "I don't know. Maybe soon." She started asking questions. Why we spend so much time together, why you're always around but don't live with us. What do you tell her? That you're someone important to both of us, that you care about her very much. Griffin set down his tea. "Lyric, I need to say something, and I need you to let me finish." She nodded. "These 3 months with Sage have been the best of my life. Getting to know her, watching her grow, being part of her world. It's a gift I know I don't deserve. But there's something else I need you to know." He paused, gathering courage. "I never stopped loving you." Lyric's breath caught. "I know I have no right to say that. I know I destroyed what we had. But it's the truth. Every person I met over these 4 years, I compared to you. Every achievement felt hollow because I couldn't share it with you. You were the one. You are the one. And I let fear and cowardice rob me of the life we could have had. Griffin, I'm not asking you to forgive me or give me another chance. I'm just telling you the truth, because I've learned that living with regret is worse than risking rejection. I love you. I love our daughter, and if all I ever get to be is Sage's father and your CO parent, I'll be grateful for that. But if there's any possibility, any chance, that someday you might—" Lyric held up her hand, stopping him. "I need you to understand something. 4 years ago you didn't just break my heart. You shattered my ability to trust. You made me question my judgment. I was pregnant, vulnerable, and in love, and you threatened everything I cared about. I know. I'm not the same person I was. I can't just pick up where we left off. I know that too. But," Lyric said, and watched hope flash across Griffin's face, "I also can't deny that what we had was real. That what I felt for you was the deepest I've ever felt. And I can't deny that watching you with Sage, seeing you show up consistently, seeing you become the man I believed you could be, it's affecting me. How? I'm not ready to call it love. I'm not ready to trust you with my heart again. But I'm open to the possibility of friendship, real friendship, co-parenting with respect and care, and maybe, if you continue to prove yourself over time, we could see if there's something more." Griffin's eyes were shining. "That's more than I hoped for. Don't hope too hard. I might never be able to get past what happened. The hurt might be too deep. Then I'll prove myself anyway, not to win you back, but because it's who I want to be." They sat in silence for a while, the weight of the conversation settling around them. "I should go," Griffin finally said. "Thank you for tonight, for every day with Sage, for even considering giving me a chance." At the door, he paused. "One more thing. My father wants to meet Sage." Lyric's entire body tensed. "Absolutely not. I told him the same thing. I just wanted you to know he's aware of her existence. I didn't tell him. He figured it out from seeing photos in my house. But I made it clear that he has no access to her or you unless you explicitly grant it. And I told him what he did to your family was unforgivable." "And what did he say?" "That he was protecting the family legacy. I told him the only legacy I care about is being a good father and, if I'm lucky, eventually earning back your trust. We're not on good terms. I'm sorry. Don't be. Some breaks need to happen. He chose his priorities. I'm choosing mine. After Griffin left, Lyric sat with her thoughts. The situation was messy and complicated and full of risk. But for the first time in 4 years, she felt something other than anger when she thought about Griffin Hale. She felt possibility. 2 weeks later, Sage provided the opening they'd been waiting for. They were at the park, the three of them, feeding ducks. Sage had been quieter than usual, thoughtful. "Mr. Griffin," she said suddenly, "why don't you have a family?" Griffin glanced at Lyric, who nodded slightly. "What makes you think I don't have a family?" he asked gently. "You're always with us. You don't talk about a wife or kids at your house. Are you lonely?" Griffin knelt down to her level. "Can I tell you a secret?" Sage nodded, eyes wide. "I do have a family. A very small, very important family." "You do? Who?" Griffin looked at Lyric, asking permission. She took a deep breath and nodded. "You," Griffin said softly. "You're my family, Sage. I'm your daddy." Sage stared at him, processing. "My real daddy, the one who lives far away. I used to live far away, but not anymore. I'm here now, and I want to be part of your life, if that's okay with you. Why didn't you tell me before?" Lyric intervened. "Because grown-ups sometimes make mistakes, baby. Your daddy and I had some problems before you were born. He wasn't ready to be a daddy yet, so I raised you by myself. But he's been working very hard to be the kind of daddy you deserve." Sage looked between them, her brilliant little mind working. "So, all those times we played together, you were my daddy the whole time?" "Yes," Griffin said. "I wanted to get to know you first, to make sure you felt comfortable with me. Are you going to leave again?" The question broke both adults' hearts. "No, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere, I promise. Do you love me?" Griffin's voice cracked. "More than anything in the whole world. Do you love Mommy?" Both adults froze. Sage continued, with a child's devastating logic, "Because daddies and mommies are supposed to love each other. That's how families work." Lyric stepped in. "Sometimes families look different, Sage. Your daddy and I care about each other very much, but we're not together like that. We're both here for you, though." Sage considered this. Then, with 4-year-old decisiveness, "I think you should love each other. You both look happy when we're together, out of the mouths of babes." "It's complicated, baby," Lyric said. "Why?" "Because sometimes grown-ups hurt each other, even when they don't mean to. And it takes time to heal from that hurt." Sage walked over to Griffin and hugged him. "I forgive you for being far away before. You're here now." Griffin wrapped his arms around his daughter and wept. Then Sage pulled back and said, with enormous seriousness, "You can call me your daughter now. I'm Sage, and you're my daddy." "Yes, I am. And you're my Sage." Wow, we've just witnessed one of the most beautiful moments. Sage finally knows who her daddy is. If this revelation touched your heart like it touched mine, please take a moment to like this story and share it with someone who believes in second chances. I'd love to know, do you think Lyric should trust Griffin? Can people really change that fundamentally? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We're heading into the most challenging part of their journey, and you won't want to miss how this family finds their way back to each other. Let's continue. The weeks following Sage's discovery transformed their dynamic. Griffin went from being Mr. Griffin to Daddy, and Sage embraced this new reality with the adaptability of childhood. She wanted him at bedtime stories, asked for him when she had exciting news to share, and proudly told anyone who would listen that she had a daddy now. Lyric watched this unfold with mixed emotions. Joy, because her daughter was happy. Anxiety, because she worried about what would happen if Griffin eventually disappointed them. And something else, something she didn't want to name, when she saw Griffin and Sage together, looking so much alike, laughing at the same things. Griffin had asked if he could increase his time with Sage, and Lyric agreed. He started coming to dinner twice a week, joining them for weekend activities, and video calling Sage before bedtime on nights he wasn't there. "Daddy, will you read me the princess story?" Sage asked one Tuesday evening after Griffin had joined them for dinner. "I'd love to," he said, and Lyric watched them walk hand in hand to Sage's room, something tightening in her chest. She cleaned up the kitchen, listening to Griffin's voice carrying down the hallway, animated and engaged, as he did different voices for each character. Sage's giggles punctuated the story. This was what she'd wanted for her daughter, a father who showed up, who cared, who was present. So why did it terrify her? "Mommy," Sage called. "Come say goodnight." Lyric went to Sage's room and found her daughter tucked in, Griffin sitting on the edge of the bed. It looked so natural, so much like a family, that Lyric had to pause in the doorway. "Ready for sleep, baby?" she asked. "Daddy said he'll take me to the Science Museum this Saturday. They have a butterfly exhibit." Did he now? Lyric looked at Griffin, who had the grace to look sheepish. "I should have asked you first," he said. "Is that okay?" The old Lyric would have said no, would have insisted on being there to supervise, but she was trying to learn to trust. "Just the two of you? If you're comfortable with that. Or you're welcome to come." Sage piped up, "Mommy, you should come. We can all go together. Like a real family." There was that phrase again, like a real family. "We'll see, baby. Sleep now." Lyric kissed her daughter's forehead. Griffin did the same, whispering, "Sweet dreams, Sage. I love you." "Love you too, Daddy." Downstairs, Lyric poured herself a glass of wine. Griffin hesitated at the door. "You can stay for a bit," Lyric said. "We should talk about boundaries and schedules." Griffin sat down, keeping a respectful distance. "I'm sorry I didn't ask first about Saturday. It's fine. I'm just adjusting. Sharing her after 4 years of it being just us. It's harder than I expected. I can't imagine how hard. You've been her whole world, and you're changing that, not replacing, just expanding." Lyric sipped her wine. "Griffin, can I ask you something honestly? Always. What happens when this gets hard? When Sage is a teenager and hates us both? When the novelty wears off and it's just the daily grind of parenting? When she's sick at 3 a.m. or has a tantrum in public or fails a test? Are you still going to show up?" "Yes," Griffin said without hesitation. "Lyric, I know I haven't earned your trust yet, but I'm not doing this because it's fun or novel. I'm doing it because she's my daughter, and I already lost 4 years. I'm not missing another day by choice. People say that. Then life gets complicated. You mean I might do what I did before? Abandon you both when things get difficult?" "Yes," Lyric said, her voice small. "That's exactly what I mean." Griffin moved closer, not touching but near enough that she could feel his presence. "I can't prove the future to you. I can only show up day after day and build a track record. But I need you to know something. The man who told you to terminate that pregnancy was broken. He was so desperate for his father's approval that he was willing to sacrifice everything real for something hollow. I'm not that man anymore." "What changed?" "Losing you changed me. The regret, the shame, the knowledge that I'd destroyed the best thing in my life. It broke me down completely. I had to rebuild from nothing. I had to figure out who I was without my father's expectations, without the company defining me, without anything but my own values. And the man I rebuilt doesn't run from hard things anymore." Lyric wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. "I'm scared," she admitted, "of trusting you, of Sage getting hurt, of letting you back into my life and having it all fall apart again." "That's fair. I'm scared too." "Of what?" "Of not being enough, of failing her, of you never being able to forgive me and us living the rest of our lives in this in-between space." They sat in silence, the weight of unspoken feelings heavy between them. "Saturday," Lyric finally said. "Take her to the museum, just you two. She needs time with just her dad." Griffin's face lit up. "Really? Really? But Griffin, if you hurt her, if you let her down, there's no coming back from that." "I know. I won't." After he left, Lyric called Tiona. "I think I'm in trouble," she said. "What kind of trouble?" "The kind where I'm starting to feel things again." For Griffin, Tiona was quiet. "Is that really trouble, or is that healing? How do I know the difference? Does it feel like falling backward or moving forward?" Lyric thought about it. "Both, neither. I don't know." Then maybe you don't have to know yet. Maybe you just have to feel it and see where it goes. Saturday came, and Lyric watched Griffin pick up Sage with a mixture of anxiety and strange emptiness. Her daughter had been so excited, chattering all morning about butterflies, and how Daddy said they'd get lunch at her favorite place. "Be good for your dad," Lyric said, helping Sage into her jacket. "I'm always good," Sage protested, making both adults smile. After they left, Lyric's apartment felt too quiet. She tried to work, to catch up on client projects, but couldn't focus. She cleaned rooms that didn't need cleaning. She reorganized her closet. Finally, she admitted what she was feeling. She missed them, both of them. Her phone buzzed with a text from Griffin. It was a photo of Sage with a butterfly landed on her finger, her face pure wonder. "Griffin, she said to tell you the butterflies are magical and scientific at the same time. I think she's going to be an engineer." Lyric smiled, her heart squeezing. "Lyric, she gets that from you, the analytical mind. Griffin, she gets her brilliance from you, and her kindness, and her strength." Lyric stared at the message, something warm unfurling in her chest. They returned that afternoon, Sage full of stories and carrying a butterfly bookmark Griffin had bought her from the gift shop. "Mummy, it was so amazing, and Daddy knew all about the different species and their migration patterns and—" Lyric listened, watching Griffin stand in her doorway, looking at their daughter with such love it was almost painful to witness. "Bath time, baby," Lyric eventually said. "You've got dirt from the gardens all over you." While Sage bathed, singing off-key, Lyric walked Griffin to the door. "Thank you," he said, "for trusting me with her. Thank you for being trustworthy." Griffin hesitated. "Lyric, there's something I need to tell you. My father is in Atlanta." Every muscle in Lyric's body tensed. "Why?" "Business. But he knows about Sage now, and he wants to meet her." "No, absolutely not. That's what I told him. But he's insisting, and you know how he is." "I know exactly how he is. He tried to destroy my family, Griffin. He succeeded in destroying my career in Chicago. He doesn't get access to my daughter." "Our daughter," Griffin said gently. "And I agree with you. I told him he has no rights here, but he's threatening to make things difficult." "How?" "Legally. He's implying he could challenge custody, claim I have rights that are being denied." "That's ridiculous. We have a formal agreement." "I know. But he's Montgomery Hale. He has lawyers who can tie things up in court for years, make life miserable even if he doesn't win." Lyric felt panic rising. "So what are you saying? That I should let him meet her to keep the peace?" "No," Griffin said firmly. "I'm saying I need to handle my father. I wanted you to know what's happening so you're not blindsided, but I won't let him near Sage. I promise." "How are you going to stop him?" Griffin's jaw tightened. "By doing what I should have done 4 years ago. Stand up to him completely, set boundaries that can't be crossed. And if he retaliates, goes after my business like he did before, he won't. I've made sure of that." "How?" "I control a significant share of the family trust. Enough that I can block his access to certain funds if he tries anything. It's mutually assured destruction. If he comes after you, I burn down some of what he's built. He knows I'm serious this time." Lyric studied him. "You'd really do that? Go against your father that completely?" "Lyric, you and Sage are my family now. He's just the man who shares my DNA and tried to control my life. I choose you both." Every time, something in Lyric's careful defenses cracked. This was what she'd needed 4 years ago, someone willing to choose her, to fight for her, to protect what they'd built together. "Okay," she said quietly. Okay. I trust you to handle him. But Griffin, if he gets anywhere near Sage—" "He won't. On my life, he won't." That night, after Sage was asleep, Lyric sat with her journal, something her therapist had encouraged her to keep. She wrote, "Today, I watched the man who broke me become the man I needed. Today, I let my daughter spend hours alone with someone who I've spent years protecting her from. Today, I felt the walls I built starting to come down, and I don't know if I'm ready. But maybe being ready isn't the point. Maybe the point is being willing to try." Montgomery Hale was exactly as Lyric remembered from the photos she'd seen years ago, tall, silver-haired, commanding. He looked like wealth and power personified. When Griffin arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a conference room at Griffin's lawyer's office, Lyric brought her own lawyer and wore her armor of professionalism. "Miss Brennan," Montgomery said, not offering his hand, "you've caused quite a disruption to my family." Lyric didn't flinch. "Mr. Hale, I haven't caused anything. Your son and I had a relationship, and that relationship produced a child. The disruption came from your attempts to destroy my life." Montgomery's eyes narrowed. "I was protecting my family's interests. You were protecting your ego. There's a difference." Griffin interjected. "Dad, we're not here to litigate the past. We're here to establish clear boundaries moving forward. I have a right to know my grandchild." "No," Lyric said firmly, "you don't. Grandparent rights require an established relationship or proof that denial would harm the child. You've never met Sage, and your presence would only bring harm given your history of threatening her mother." Montgomery turned to Griffin. "You're going to let her speak to me this way?" "She's not saying anything that isn't true," Griffin replied. "You did threaten her family. You did try to force her out of Chicago. You acted like a bully, and now you're facing the consequences of those choices. I made those choices to protect you from a gold digger who—" "Careful." Griffin's voice went deadly quiet. "The next words you say about Lyric will determine whether you and I have any relationship moving forward." Montgomery seemed genuinely shocked. In his world, people didn't stand up to him, especially not his own son. Lyric's lawyer, Janelle Morrison, slid a document across the table. "Mr. Hale, this is a formal agreement stating that you will have no contact with Sage Brennan without explicit written permission from both parents. Any violation will result in a restraining order and legal action. You can't be serious." "Sign it, Dad," Griffin said, "or I pull my shares from the family trust and tank the value of everything you've built. I've already spoken with the board. They're prepared to support my decision." It was a power play years in the making. Montgomery Hale, who'd controlled his son's life with money and expectations, was finally being checkmated. "You'd destroy the family legacy over some woman and her child?" "They're not some woman and her child. Lyric is the mother of my daughter. Sage is my family. And yes, I'd burn down every legacy you've built to protect them, without hesitation." The room was silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning. Montgomery picked up the pen, his hand shaking slightly, whether from rage or shock, Lyric couldn't tell, and signed. "You're making a mistake," he said to Griffin. "No, Dad. I made a mistake 4 years ago when I listened to you instead of following my heart. I'm not making that mistake again." After Montgomery left, Lyric exhaled a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "That was intense," Janelle said, packing up her briefcase. Griffin looked at Lyric. "Are you okay? You really would have done it. Destroyed the family business? In a heartbeat. He doesn't get to hurt you anymore. Either of you." Lyric felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you. You don't have to thank me for choosing my family." Janelle quietly excused herself, leaving them alone in the conference room. "Griffin, what you did just now, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen. It wasn't brave, it was necessary, and it was about 4 years overdue." Lyric stepped closer to him. 4 years ago, I asked you to choose me, to choose us, and you couldn't do it. I know. It's my greatest regret. But today, you did choose us. You put Sage and me ahead of everything else. Money, legacy, your relationship with your father. It wasn't even a hard choice, Lyric. It was the easiest decision I've ever made. Something shifted in that moment. The anger Lyric had carried, the wall she'd built around her heart, started to crumble. "I think—" She started, then stopped, scared of the words. "What?" Griffin asked gently. "I think I'm ready to try—" "Try what?" "This, us. Not just co-parenting, but seeing if we can be something more, something real." Griffin's eyes widened. "Are you sure? I don't want you to feel pressured." "I'm not. I'm terrified, but I'm sure. You've shown me over these months that you've changed, that you're the man I believed you could be. And I think I owe it to both of us to see if what we had can become something even stronger." "Lyric." Griffin's voice was thick with emotion. "I won't let you down. Not again. I know. And if you do, I'm strong enough now to survive it. I've learned I don't need you to be whole. But I want to see if choosing you makes life fuller. Griffin reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. His fingers interlaced with hers, familiar and new all at once. "Can I take you to dinner?" he asked. A real date. Not co-parenting logistics, not business discussion. Just you and me. Lyric smiled. "I'd like that." Their first official date was at a small Italian restaurant, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing flashy or expensive, just good food and intimate atmosphere. Griffin had asked Lyric where she wanted to go, and she'd chosen this place deliberately. She needed to know if he could be comfortable in her world, not just inviting her into his. He showed up at her door in a button-down and slacks, holding flowers, simple sunflowers, because she'd once mentioned they were her favorite. "You remembered," she said, surprised. "I remember everything about you, Lyric." Her mother was staying with Sage for the evening, and when Griffin came in to say hello, Sage launched herself at him. "Daddy, are you and Mommy going on a date?" Griffin glanced at Lyric, unsure how to answer. "We are," Lyric said. "Is that okay with you?" Sage grinned. "Does this mean you'll get married and we'll all live together?" "Whoa, baby, slow down. We're just having dinner. But you love each other, right?" Lyric's mother, Diane, intervened. "Sage, honey, why don't you show Grandma that new puzzle you got? Let your parents have a nice evening." As they walked to Griffin's car, Lyric laughed nervously. "Sorry about the marriage interrogation." "Don't be sorry. She's 4. Her logic is simple. People who love each other get married. Is it that simple?" Griffin opened her car door. "Maybe it should be. Maybe we complicate things too much." Dinner was easy, easier than Lyric expected. They talked about everything, Sage, of course, but also their work, their dreams, their fears. Griffin told her about the therapy he'd done, the work of unlearning his father's toxic lessons about power and control. "My therapist asked me what I wanted my legacy to be," he said over pasta, "and I realized I'd been thinking about it all wrong. I was so focused on the company, on wealth, on making my father proud. But those things don't matter. The only legacy that matters is whether I was a good father, whether I loved well, whether I made the world better for the people I touched." "That's beautiful," Lyric said. "What did your father say when you told him that?" "That I was being naive. That legacy is about what you build, what lasts." In a way, he's right, but what lasts isn't buildings or money, it's the people you impact, the love you give. Sage is your legacy. Whatever you teach her, however you shape her character, that will outlast any company. Griffin reached across the table and took her hand. "You're wise, you know that? I'm a single mother who learned everything the hard way. No, you're a woman who turned pain into purpose, who took the worst thing that ever happened to her and used it to become stronger, better, more compassionate." Lyric felt tears threatening. "It didn't feel noble when I was doing it. It felt like survival. That's what makes it noble. You survived, you thrived, you raised an incredible daughter, built a successful business and, somehow, still have it in your heart to give me a second chance. Maybe I'm the naive one. Or maybe you're someone who believes people can change, and you're giving me the chance to prove it." After dinner, they walked along the Beltline, the Atlanta skyline glittering in the distance. It was comfortable, walking beside Griffin. Their rhythms matched. "Can I ask you something?" Griffin said. "Sure. What would it take for you to fully trust me again? I know we're not there yet, but what does that look like?" Lyric thought carefully. "Time. Consistency. Seeing you handle difficult situations without running. Watching you prioritize Sage even when it's inconvenient. And maybe—" She hesitated. "What?" "Maybe falling in love with who you are now. Not just remembering who you were. We're both different people. If this works, it has to be because of who we are today, not nostalgia for who we were. That's fair. And for what it's worth, I'm already falling in love with who you've become." Lyric's heart skipped. "Griffin, too much? Too soon?" "No, just scary." In a good way, he stopped walking and turned to face her. I know we're taking this slow. I know there's a lot of history to work through, but I need you to know something. I'm all in. Whatever pace you need, whatever boundaries you set, I'm committed to this, to us. What if I can't get there? What if the hurt runs too deep? Then we'll still be great co-parents, and I'll spend the rest of my life grateful for whatever you can give me. But I'm choosing to believe we can have more, that we can build something even stronger than what we had before. Lyric looked up at him, this man who'd broken her and was now carefully, patiently putting the pieces back together. "Kiss me," she said. "What?" "I need to know if it still feels the same, if there's still that connection." Griffin cupped her face gently, giving her time to change her mind. When she didn't, he leaned down and kissed her. It was soft and careful at first, both of them tentative, but then muscle memory kicked in, and familiarity, and something deeper. Lyric felt 4 years of ice begin to melt. This wasn't the same as before. It was different, richer, weighted with everything they'd survived. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. "Well?" Griffin asked. "Still there," Lyric whispered. "Definitely still there." They spent the rest of the evening walking and talking, stealing kisses, laughing like they used to. When Griffin dropped her home, he walked her to the door like a perfect gentleman. "Thank you for tonight," he said. "Thank you for being patient with me. With us, Lyric, I'd wait a lifetime if that's what you needed." After he left, Lyric floated inside to find her mother reading in the living room. "Good date?" Diane asked with a knowing smile. "Really good, Mama. You're glowing, baby." Lyric sat down beside her mother. "Am I crazy? Taking him back after everything?" Diane took her daughter's hand. "You're not taking him back. You're moving forward. There's a difference. The man who hurt you 4 years ago isn't the man who fought his father today. People can change, if they want it badly enough. But what if? Baby, you can't live in the what-ifs. All you can do is trust your gut, protect your heart, and be brave enough to try. And from what I've seen, that man is trying harder than anyone I've ever met to be worthy of you. Sage will be over the moon. She's been trying to parent trap us for weeks." Diane laughed. "That child is too smart for her own good. She gets it from you, Mama. She gets it from all of us. She's a Brennan, strong, smart, and stubborn. No matter what happens with Griffin, she's got a foundation that can't be shaken." Lyric hugged her mother. "I love you. I love you too, baby. Now go check on your daughter. She refused to sleep until you got home. Wanted to know all about the date." Sure enough, Sage was in her bed, eyes fighting to stay open. "Mommy, did you kiss Daddy?" "Sage Marie Brennan, that's private." Sage grinned. "You did, I can tell. You look happy." Lyric lay down next to her daughter. "I am happy. Is that okay with you?" "It's the most okay ever. I prayed for this." "You did?" "Every night. I asked God to help Daddy be good enough for you, and to help you not be so scared." "Did it work?" Lyric felt tears slip down her cheeks. "Yeah, baby. I think it worked." Sage snuggled close. "I knew it would." God listens to kids specially good. As Lyric held her daughter, feeling the peaceful weight of her, she thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The pain, the struggle, the rebuilding. And she realized something profound. Sometimes the breaking is what makes room for something better. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what truly matters. Sometimes the wilderness years are preparation for the promised land. She'd spent 4 years angry at Griffin for destroying her life, but maybe he hadn't destroyed it. Maybe he'd inadvertently freed her to build something more authentic, more powerful, more truly hers. And now, maybe they could build something together that was stronger for having been tested. Over the next several months, Lyric and Griffin navigated the delicate balance of dating while parenting. It was complicated and beautiful in equal measure. They established boundaries, no sleepovers while Sage was home, keeping their relationship appropriate around her, making sure she understood that Mommy and Daddy loving each other didn't diminish how much they loved her. Griffin started joining them for family dinners several times a week. They'd cook together, Lyric making her mother's recipes, Griffin contributing the few dishes he'd mastered, Sage helping by making enormous messes and narrating everything. "We need more flour, Daddy." "No, that's too much. Now we're making cloud bread." Their life began to blend. Griffin had clothes in Lyric's closet. Lyric had a toothbrush at his penthouse. Sage had toys at both places and didn't seem confused by the arrangement. Just happy that her family was together, whatever form that took. Lyric's business continued to thrive. The technology education initiative she'd branded won national recognition, bringing more clients and opportunities. Griffin offered to invest in Brennan Brand Collective, but Lyric declined. "I need to know I built this myself," she explained. "You did build it yourself. Investment doesn't change that. Maybe later, but right now, I need it to be fully mine." Griffin understood. That was the thing. He understood her in ways no one else ever had. They had their first major fight 4 months into dating. It was about Griffin's work schedule. He'd missed one of Sage's preschool events because of a board meeting. "You said you'd be there," Lyric said, trying to keep her voice level. "I know, and I'm sorry. The meeting ran late and I couldn't leave." "There's always going to be a meeting, Griffin. There's always going to be something more important pulling at you. That's not fair. I'm there 99% of the time. And that 1% is what I'm worried about. What happens when she's older, and that 1% becomes 5%, then 10%? Griffin ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Lyric recognized as frustration. "I'm not perfect, Lyric. I'm going to mess up sometimes. But I'm trying." "I know you're trying, but I can't." She stopped, feeling the old fear rising. "I can't do this if you're going to make promises you can't keep." It was one event. It was her first singing performance, Griffin. She was looking for you in the audience, and you weren't there. They were both quiet, the weight of old wounds pressing down. Finally, Griffin said, "You're right. I should have left the meeting. I should have made her the priority. I messed up, and I'm sorry. It's not just about apologizing. I know. It's about showing up, and I will. I'll do better. How can I trust that?" Griffin looked at her steadily. "Because I'll prove it, not with words, with actions. And when I mess up again, because I will, because I'm human, I'll own it, apologize, and do better. That's all I can offer you, Lyric. Not perfection, but consistent effort and genuine accountability." Lyric felt her anger deflate. "I'm scared of falling into the same pattern, of you choosing work over us. I'm not the same man I was, and you're not alone anymore. You can call me out when I'm slipping. We're a team now." "Are we? I want us to be, don't you?" She did. That was the truth of it. Despite her fear, despite the history, she wanted this. Wanted him. Wanted the family they were building together. "Yeah," she said softly. "I do." They worked through it. And true to his word, Griffin did better. He started blocking off time for Sage's events in his calendar as non-negotiable. He delegated more at work. He showed Lyric that she and Sage were his priority, not just in words but in choices. And slowly, Lyric's trust deepened. It happened on a Saturday morning, 8 months after they'd started dating again, in the most ordinary and perfect way possible. They were making pancakes, their weekend tradition. Sage was still in her pajamas, dancing to music while Lyric mixed batter and Griffin manned the griddle. It was chaotic and messy and full of laughter. "Daddy, make mine in a butterfly shape," Sage demanded. "I'll try, but it might look more like a blob, a butterfly blob." Lyric watched them, feeling so full of love she thought she might burst. This was what she'd wanted when she first found out she was pregnant. This sense of family, of belonging, of being part of something bigger than herself. After breakfast, after Sage had eaten her butterfly blob pancake and gotten syrup everywhere, Griffin suggested a walk to the park. "Again?" Sage said. "We go every Saturday." "Humor me," Griffin said. Something in his voice made Lyric pay attention. He was nervous. She could see it in the way he kept fidgeting with his watch. At the park, at the exact bench where they'd had their first meeting, after Sage learned Griffin was her father, Griffin stopped. "Lyric, can you sit for a minute?" "Daddy, what are you doing?" Sage asked, clearly in on something. Griffin knelt down in front of Lyric, and her heart started pounding. 4.5 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. I let fear control me. I chose wrong, and I lost the most important person in my world. Tears were already streaming down Lyric's face. You could have, should have, refused to ever speak to me again. But you gave me a chance to know our daughter, and then, somehow, you gave me a chance to prove I'd changed. You let me back into your life, into your heart, even though I'd shattered it. Griffin, these past months with you and Sage have been the happiest of my life. Every dinner, every silly pancake breakfast, every bedtime story. These are the moments that matter. You two are what matters. And I don't want to spend another day not being fully, completely, officially your family. He pulled out a small velvet box, and Sage squealed with excitement. Lyric Brennan, you are the strongest, most brilliant, most compassionate person I've ever known. You're an incredible mother, a visionary businesswoman, and the love of my life. I know I don't deserve you, but I'm asking anyway. Will you marry me? He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring, not ostentatious, but elegant. A sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. It's blue like the dress you wore the night we met, Griffin explained. I wanted something that reminded me of the moment my life changed. Lyric couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, could only cry and nod. Is that a yes? Griffin asked, hope and fear in his voice. Yes, she finally managed. Yes, of course, yes. Sage launched herself at them both, and they all ended up in a heap on the grass, laughing and crying and hugging. Griffin slipped the ring onto Lyric's finger. It fit. Perfectly. You planned this, Lyric accused Sage. You knew. Daddy asked my permission. He said he needed my help to ask you properly. Lyric looked at Griffin. You asked our 4-year-old for permission. She's the other most important woman in my life. I needed her blessing. What did you tell him, baby? Sage got very serious. I said only if he promised to love you forever and ever, and always make you happy, and never make you cry sad tears. And he promised. Griffin wiped tears from Lyric's cheeks. All happy tears from now on. That's my goal. That's impossible, Lyric said, laughing through her tears. Life has sad moments. Then I'll be there for those too. Whatever comes, we face it together. All three of us. The engagement brought unexpected complications. The announcement in the business community created buzz. CEO Griffin Hale marrying marketing. Consultant Lyric Brennan, with a 4-year-old daughter no one knew existed. There were think pieces online, gossip in social circles, speculation about their story. Lyric found it invasive and exhausting. Everyone has an opinion about our family, she said to Tiona over coffee. Let them talk. You know your truth. Some of the comments are awful. They're saying I trapped him with a baby, that I'm after his money. Lyric, people who don't know you will always create narratives that fit their worldview. The people who matter know the real story. Still, it stung. Griffin addressed it head-on. He gave an interview to a major business publication, telling their story honestly. His failure, his growth, his gratitude that Lyric gave him a second chance. I walked away from the best thing in my life because I was a coward, he said in the interview. Lyric raised our daughter alone, built a successful business from scratch, and still found it in her heart to let me be a father. She didn't trap me, she freed me from expectations that were killing me, from a life that looked successful but felt empty. She and Sage are my real life. Everything else is just noise. The interview changed the narrative. Suddenly, they weren't a scandal. They were a redemption story, a love story, a reminder that people could change and families could heal. Lyric's mother flew down to help with wedding planning. Sage insisted on being the flower girl and wanted to wear a purple dress because purple is the color of Queen's grandma. Planning the wedding brought Lyric and Griffin closer. They had to navigate family dynamics. Griffin's mother wanted to be involved. His father was not invited, Lyric. His extended family had opinions, and they both wanted something intimate and meaningful, not a society spectacle. What if we just did a small ceremony? Lyric suggested. Just our closest family and friends. Somewhere beautiful but simple, focused on what matters. I love that, Griffin said. Where are you thinking? There's a garden in Grant Park, where we had Sage's 3rd birthday party, remember? She loves it there. It feels like us. They settled on a spring wedding in the garden, with fewer than 50 guests. Sage helped pick flowers, sunflowers and daisies. Happy flowers, Mummy. Marcus would walk Lyric down the aisle. Troy was officiating. He'd gotten ordained online specifically for this. Tiona was maid of honor. Griffin's best man was his college roommate, Julian, who'd been his rock through the difficult years. "I'm glad you found your way back to her," Julian said during the bachelor party, a quiet dinner, not the wild event Montgomery had suggested. "I watched you fall apart after she left. You were a ghost for a year. I deserved worse," Griffin said. "Maybe. But you did the work. You changed. Not many people actually do that." Griffin looked at his friend. "I didn't have a choice. Living with that regret was killing me. I had to become someone who could look at himself in the mirror. And now? Now I get to marry the woman I love and be a father to an incredible little girl. I'm the luckiest man alive." Meanwhile, Lyric was having a similar conversation with Tiona at her bachelorette party, spa day, massages and good wine. "You're really doing this," Tiona said. "Marrying the man who broke your heart." "I'm marrying the man who proved hearts can heal," Lyric corrected. "Who showed me that people can change if they want it badly enough." "Are you scared?" "Terrified, but also sure." "Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. You can be scared and certain at the same time. It means you're going in with eyes open. What if it falls apart? What if it doesn't? Lyric, you've spent 4 years protecting yourself. Maybe it's time to risk being happy." The night before the wedding, Lyric couldn't sleep. She sat on her couch, looking at her apartment, the home she'd built as a single mother, the sanctuary that had seen her lowest moments and greatest triumphs. Tomorrow, she'd marry Griffin. They'd move into a new house together, one they'd chosen as a family, in a neighborhood with good schools and a big backyard for Sage. This chapter was ending, and a new one was beginning. There was a soft knock on the door. Griffin, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You're not supposed to see me before the wedding," she said, but moved aside to let him in. "That's only on the wedding day. It's still technically the night before." He handed her a coffee. Couldn't sleep either. Too many feelings. They sat on the couch, the comfortable silence of 2 people who knew each other deeply. "Are you having second thoughts?" Griffin asked. "No. Are you? Not even close. Just reflective, thinking about how differently this could have gone, how close I came to missing all of this, but you didn't. You're here. We're here." Griffin set down his coffee and took her hands. "Lyric, I need to say something before we do this tomorrow. I need you to know that I see you, not just as Sage's mother, not just as my partner, but as the extraordinary woman you are. You didn't need me to be complete. You built a whole beautiful life without me. So when you say yes tomorrow, I want you to know you're not completing yourself. You're choosing to share your completeness with someone who will spend every day earning that privilege." Lyric felt tears spill over. "How did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher. You showed me what real strength looks like." They held each other, and Lyric felt 4 years of pain finally fully release. She was ready to trust, ready to love, ready to build a future on the foundation of everything they'd survived. "I should go," Griffin said. "Let you get some sleep. Stay a little longer. Just sit with me." So they sat, drinking coffee, watching the sunrise through her window, holding hands and dreaming about tomorrow. The morning of the wedding dawned perfect. Clear skies, gentle breeze, perfect temperature. Lyric woke in the guest bedroom at her mother's home. Diane had insisted on tradition, surrounded by the women she loved. Her mother helped her into her dress, a simple, elegant gown that made her feel beautiful without trying to be someone she wasn't. "You look like a queen, baby," Diane said, tears in her eyes. Sage twirled in her purple flower girl dress. "Mommy, you're so pretty. Daddy's going to cry." "You think so? I know so. He cries at everything about you. Last week he cried at your coffee commercial." Lyric laughed. "That was a good commercial." Tiona did her makeup, keeping it natural and glowing. Remember when you said you'd never trust him again? I remember. I'm glad you were wrong. Me too. The ceremony was at 4 p.m. As the light turned golden, Lyric arrived at the garden to find it transformed. Simple decorations, sunflowers everywhere, chairs, arranged in a circle rather than rows because they wanted everyone close, everyone part of the moment. Griffin stood at the center with Troy, looking nervous and handsome in his suit. When the music started and Sage began her walk down the aisle, carefully dropping petals, so serious about her job, he smiled. But when Lyric appeared on her brother Marcus's arm, Griffin's face transformed into pure, unfiltered joy. And he cried. Sage was right. Marcus walked his sister down the aisle, whispered, "He's a good man, Lyric. You chose right," and placed her hand in Griffin's. Troy began the ceremony with words about love, resilience, and second chances. We're gathered here to witness something sacred, not just a marriage, but a redemption. A testament to the truth that people can change, that love can heal, that families can be broken and rebuilt into something even stronger. He spoke about Lyric's journey, about Griffin's transformation, about Sage being the miracle that brought them full circle. Then it was time for their vows. Griffin went first, his voice steady despite the tears streaming down his face. Lyric, 4.5 years ago, I was given a gift, your love, your trust, and the news that we'd created a life together. And I threw that gift away out of fear. I've spent every day since trying to become worthy of a second chance. You are my North Star, my conscience, my home. You showed me what courage looks like when you chose to have Sage despite my threats. You showed me what strength looks like when you rebuilt your life from nothing. And you showed me what grace looks like when you let me back in. I promise to spend every day honoring these gifts. I promise to love you in the hard times and the easy times when you're at your best and when you're struggling. I promise to be your partner in building a life of meaning, purpose, and joy. I choose you, Lyric Brennan. Today and every day for the rest of my life. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Then Lyric spoke, her voice clear and strong. Griffin, when we met, I was a woman trying to prove I belonged in rooms I wasn't born into. You saw me, really saw me, and made me believe I belonged anywhere I chose to be. Then you broke me. You shattered my trust, my heart, and my life. And in that shattering, you forced me to discover who I really was, what I was really made of. I learned I was stronger than I knew, braver than I believed, more resilient than I imagined. I learned I didn't need you to be whole. But here's what I discovered in these past months. I don't need you, but I choose you. I choose to share my life, my daughter, my dreams with you. Not because you complete me, but because you complement me. You make me want to be even better. You challenge me, support me, and love me with an intensity that still takes my breath. A way I promise to trust you with my heart, even when fear whispers that I shouldn't. I promise to believe in your growth, even when old wounds ache. I promise to build a life with you based on who we are now, not who we were. I choose you, Griffin Hale, freely, completely, joyfully. They exchanged rings, simple platinum bands engraved with the date and all in, their private promise to each other. Troy pronounced them married, and when Griffin kissed Lyric, it was like coming home. Sage cheered louder than anyone, yelling, "That's my mommy and daddy." The reception was in the same garden, under string lights as evening fell. There was dinner, dancing, toasts that made everyone laugh and cry. Marcus's toast to my sister, who taught us all that breaking can be the beginning of becoming. And to Griffin, who proved that the measure of a man isn't his mistakes, but how he makes amends. Welcome to the family, brother. Tiona's toast. I've known Lyric for 10 years, and I've never seen her happier than she is right now. Griffin, you better keep it that way, or you'll answer to me. Griffin's toast to Lyric, to my wife, those are the best 2 words I've ever said. Thank you for being brave enough to try again. Thank you for giving me Sage. Thank you for showing me what real love looks like. Lyric and Griffin's first dance was to a song that had played the night they met. A full circle moment that made them both emotional. We made it, Lyric whispered as they swayed. We made it, Griffin agreed. And this is just the beginning. Sage cut in halfway through, insisting on dancing with both of them, and they ended up in a three-person dance that was more giggling than actual dancing. As the evening wound down and guests departed, Lyric stood with her new husband and their daughter, watching the stars come out. "Are you happy, Mummy?" Sage asked. Lyric looked at her daughter, then at Griffin. "So happy, baby. The happiest I've ever been." "Me too," Sage said. This was the best day ever. After Sage was picked up by Diane, she was sleeping at Grandma's for the weekend. Lyric and Griffin drove to their new home, the place where they'd start their life together as a married couple. "Ready to carry me over the threshold?" Lyric teased. "Absolutely." He swept her up, and she laughed as he carried her inside, into their future, into the life they'd built from broken pieces. That night, in each other's arms, they weren't thinking about the past or worrying about the future. They were simply present, grateful, and wholly in love. 5 years later, Lyric Hale stood in her office at Brennan Brand Collective, now a full-service marketing agency with 20 employees and offices in Atlanta and Chicago. On her wall hung awards, client photos, and one picture that made her smile every time. She saw it, Griffin, herself, and Sage at their wedding, all three of them laughing. Sage was 9 now, brilliant and funny and kind. She'd recently started asking questions about her parents' story. The real story, the complicated parts. Lyric and Griffin had decided to be honest, age-appropriately. They'd explained that Daddy had made mistakes, that Mummy had been hurt, that they'd found their way back to each other through love and hard work. "So you're saying people can mess up and still be good?" Sage had asked. "Yes," Lyric had said. "People can make terrible choices and still change. They just have to do the work." Now, Sage used that lesson in her own life. When she made mistakes at school or with friends, she'd own them, apologize, and do better. "Like Daddy taught me," she'd say. Griffin had sold his majority share in Hale Innovations and focused full-time on philanthropic work. The technology education initiative he'd founded had expanded to 30 states, bringing coding and STEM education to underprivileged communities. He was making a real difference, using his privilege and resources to level the playing field. Montgomery Hale had eventually asked to meet Sage after years of respecting the boundaries they'd set. The meeting had been stiff and awkward, but civil. He was learning, slowly, to be a grandfather. Trust was earned incrementally, and he was earning it. Lyric and Griffin had welcomed twins 2 years ago, a boy and a girl, named Miles and Maya. Sage was an attentive, loving big sister who took her role very seriously. Their life wasn't perfect. They had arguments, stresses, and challenges, like any family. But they faced them together, with honesty and commitment. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they went back to the garden where they'd married. Sage was with them this time, older and wiser. "Do you ever regret how things happened?" Griffin asked Lyric as they walked the same paths. Lyric considered the question. "I regret the pain. I regret the years we lost, but I don't regret the journey, because the woman I became in the wilderness, the strong, independent, sure version of myself, that's who you married, not the woman I was before. And our relationship now is deeper because we've tested it. So no regrets, no regrets. Everything, the good and the bad, brought us here. And here is pretty wonderful." They'd learned the most important lessons. That love without respect is hollow. That change requires action, not just intention. That trust broken can be rebuilt, but only through consistent, genuine effort. That strength isn't avoiding breaking. It's learning to rebuild yourself better than before. That real family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. That the wilderness seasons of life often prepare us for the promised land. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to let the past poison the future. That you can be both independent and in love, both strong and vulnerable, both scarred and healed. Sage ran ahead on the path, then turned back to her parents. "Come on, I want to show you where you got married." Lyric and Griffin followed their daughter, hand in hand, walking into the sunshine of a life. They'd built from broken pieces, a life more beautiful for having been broken and remade. Behind them lay the wilderness years, the pain, the growth. Ahead lay possibility, partnership, and a love that had been tested and proven true. And in that moment, surrounded by family and bathed in golden light, Lyric understood the final truth. Sometimes the best stories are the ones we write after the ending we thought would destroy us. Sometimes the happily ever after comes not from avoiding pain, but from walking through it and emerging whole on the other side. Sometimes the love we lose is the love we needed to find again. And when we do, it's even more precious for having been lost. Thank you for taking this emotional journey with Lyric, Griffin, and Sage. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Did you believe in Griffin's redemption? Would you have given him a second chance? Remember, sometimes the best stories are written after the ending we thought would destroy us. Subscribe for more inspiring stories.